So today, on Great Outdoors Garage, Lucille is not going to be the subject matter today. It's been a busy week here at the Great Outdoors Garage, and I've been jumping between different projects, even a water heater install, and so I haven't got out here to finish cleaning her up and getting her ready to go, which is fine because I've still got maybe a week before I really need to mow the lawn really badly. So today what we're going to do is you're going to see a video that I already shot about changing oil, and particularly doing oil changes on cars. And there's a lot of misunderstandings about oil changes. So I hope you enjoy this episode. Take a look. What's this thing doing here? We're not supposed to have this. This is a little bit later model than what we're used to working on here in the Great Outdoors Garage. But a few years ago, I saved up a bunch of money and I bought myself a Toyota Camry. This is a 2023 model, and I just call her Jess because she's the new girl. And she is the newest vehicle we have out here. Now, right now, it needs an oil change. And you might say unlucky, but I say luckily enough, this thing's out from under warranty now, so I do my own oil changes on it, which I think are better than what the dealership's going to do. But that's just me being a crotchety old country doctor, I guess. But this is Jess. And what we're going to show you here is how to do an oil change on a late model car. And I would recommend these to anybody. These are great units. So we'll see. She's just a few years into her life, so see how she holds up. But these Toyotas are pretty much unstoppable. And it was interesting to me that I learned about a year or so after I bought this car, I didn't really actually realize the history of Toyota. And Toyota is kind of a strange offshoot of General Motors. I really felt like I was defecting when I bought this car away from General Motors. And then I found out that these cars came from Japanese vehicles, or well, not really Japanese vehicles, but American vehicles that were shipped over to Japan after World War II, to help out after all the situation that happened there. I'm not going to go into that right now, but it was a very tough time. And so there were General Motors vehicles that got shipped to Japan to become municipal vehicles. And then they started reverse engineering some of those vehicles in Japan, and out came Toyota. So in a way, I'm kind of thrilled because, I thought I was kind of getting out of the family because, I won't tell you my opinion of current, any United States automobile manufacturer. I just won't tell you my opinion. Just know that it's one of those things, don't say anything at all if you don't got anything nice to say. So this is really great that, kind of kept it in the family in a way. Okay, I really like when I get to make one of these videos and talk to you about some things maybe you haven't seen or haven't heard before. So this engine officially requires a 5,000 mile oil change, is what they say on this. Now me, I'm old school. I'm old school, as you all may have picked up. And if you haven't picked it up yet, you're going to pick it up a lot more on this channel as the summer goes along. Cool projects coming up. But here's the deal. This, as we know, it's a 2023 brand new car, basically. And what they say on this motor is change the oil every 5,000 miles. In every one of these newer cars, I've heard that, you don't have to change the oil for this many miles or that many miles or whatever. And I'm always like, let's just hang on a minute and discuss that. It is environmentally based. And even Toyota, if they were here, would tell you that. Now, if Toyota was here, they'd probably tell me this is okay, but I don't like it for one of my motors. All right. So if I pull my dipstick, see how you can clearly see that oil on the dipstick on camera? And it's turning this brownish sort of color, kind of like, the color of the dirt out here maybe? That's dirt getting in the oil, okay? That is not a problem with the car. That is not a problem with the engine. That is a problem with the environment. That is going to happen, okay? Now, the difference is are you in a good environment or does your environment suck? Like, for instance, if you're in Oklahoma, I always make the joke that Oklahoma is always trying to kill you one way or another. Well, it's doing the same thing to my car. It's throwing dust in the air. It's just Oklahoma. It's par for the course. It's going to rot your windshield wipers off. Dusty during the dry spells. Cold during the winter. And, if that doesn't get you, it'll throw a random tornado at you. So Oklahoma is a little bit of a rough place. And what we've just learned here is it's too rough for a 5,000 mile oil change on this motor. And yet again, like I say, that's not, and a lot of people would tell you that's really not bad oil conditioning. But for a brand new motor, I'd like to see a lot better than that. The other thing is I can smell the stank coming off the dipstick. And if it stanks, that ain't no good. So another trick, I use this on older motors. And I can't get the oil cap off right now, but I was going to show you. You can peek down inside the oil cap, and that will tell you a lot about the condition of an older motor. This one I would expect to be nice and clear in there, but man, I got that oil cap on too tight last time. So we'll look at that and move forward. Okay, this doesn't necessarily apply to this car, but it still is kind of showing us some telltale things. And this is one of the things, like if I'm buying a car that I don't know anything about, which is pretty much any car you're buying, one of the first things I always do is take the oil cap off the engine and just look down in there and see how things look. Now here I'm looking down in here and things look pretty clean, but I really don't like that dark color to the oil. And that's the same thing I'm seeing on the dipstick. And that's just dirt and debris trailing through the motor. Yes, they're designed and built to handle that. But there's no reason to make the situation any worse than what it already is. So I would tell anybody, check your oil. The minute it starts getting not clear or a little bit darker like that, go ahead and change it. I like to, if I'm looking at a dipstick, I like that oil to be just, kind of slightly gray when I change it. This is starting to turn black. And when your oil starts turning colors, that's bad. It should actually be a little bit hard to check your oil, if you ask me. It should be a little bit hard to see on the dipstick that it's so clear. A lot of people back in the day got used to oil being black and thought that was normal. Even when I was a little kid, I thought that was normal. That's not normal. That is the sign that you have an issue. You should be changing your oil out when it's still clear. So I'm going to back this thing up to a 3,000 mile change. Probably unnecessary. A lot of people would tell me it was unnecessary. But then again, in 30 years when this engine doesn't need rebuilt and all of its contemporaries do need rebuilt, people might change their tune a little bit. So you always want to really watch your oil. And honestly, this is on me. I should have been monitoring that oil a little bit better than that. I trusted the 5,000 change too much. And remember, that's the key thing. Watch your oil, look at the condition of it, and do your oil changes based on your environment. The manufacturer will tell you one thing, and that's a blanket. I mean, these cars were, come on, this is a Japanese-American car. These were sold in Japan, they've been sold in North America, they've been sold in Britain. Do you think all of environments are correct for a 5,000 mile oil change? I'm going to tell you my answer, and my answer is going to be hell no. So just be advised of that. Monitor the condition of your oil. Do as I say, don't do as I do. I should have been monitoring the condition of this oil better. But a couple of good oil changes and she'll be good as new. Just don't keep doing that for a long term, because then you'll end up like some other engines I've seen in the past. So there are some things when you're doing an oil change you should worry about, and other things you shouldn't worry about. Now I've got a little bit of oil on my fingers here, and you definitely want to wash that off straight away because that can cause you health issues. But before you wash it off, just get a feel of that oil between your hands, and I can feel a little grit in there. Probably some of that's metal. That's going to be normal. An engine's going to expel a little bit of metal out the bottom of its oil pan. But this is gritty. Honestly, I don't feel like metal bits to me. That just feels like dirt. Which, if I can feel it in my hand, that's not good. A little bit of grit's okay. But, and this is probably okay, but it's just, there's more than I like. And especially for being a brand new motor like this. So what we've done is we've uncorked our pan now. We've got our drain plug out, and we're just letting it drain down. Now these modern cars, they'll tell you like this little gasket on here. Whoops, can't get it on camera. See, there's a little gasket there on that drain plug. They'll tell you need to replace that every single time. That's just bull. You don't need to replace it every single time. If you come to your oil change and the oil plug's been leaking, then replace the gasket on it. Otherwise, don't worry about the thing. So what I'm going to do now, there's different ways of doing oil changes. And one of the popular things nowadays is you'll go to oil change places and they'll do what's called the 15-minute oil change. And I'm going to clue you in on something on that. They didn't get all your old oil out of your engine. Let them drain, come back to them. Like right now, you probably can't hear it on camera. I can just hear the trickle of the last bit of oil coming out of the bottom of this motor. I'm going to do something else for just a few minutes. Let this drain down really good. And then I'll come back and start finishing the oil change procedure. But whenever you're doing an oil change at home, if you're doing it at a business, yeah, you got to get the oil change turned out really quick. If you're doing it at home, I usually like to, start my oil change in the morning and right around noontime have the oil drain plug pulled out, and then go and have lunch, maybe have my hour lunch or whatever, and then come back once the engine's really got a chance to drip out. Yet again, it's not super necessary, but it's just one of those things that you can do to make your oil change that much better. And why not, especially if you've got an investment like this that you've made. Another thing that I'd like to share, and this is something I didn't know until a few years ago, but it was a really great tip that a really good professional mechanic gave me, which is if you're ever doing an oil change, particularly if you're doing one in a shop where there's multiple people working on multiple different things, take your oil dipstick, bring it up, leave it hanging in the air like that. The other thing is, take your oil cap, set it right on that hood latch. That way, if somebody tries to come along and close the hood and they're being negligent, it won't close because of that oil cap. It might break the oil cap, but that's better than somebody getting in this thing and trying to start it up and drive it off with no oil in it. So leave your dipstick hanging, put your oil cap right there on your hood. Now, of course, this is the Great Outdoors Garage, so I'm pretty much the only person working here, but it's still just a good tip and a good safety feature to think about. Okay, here's where I have a little secret with my oil changes. And I think I'm going to go ahead and expose this secret, but I think maybe some of you are going to call me crazy, and that's fine. I don't care, because here's the thing. What I will do when I change oil, I'll remove the oil plug down there. I'll let it drain for a while like we were talking about before, and then I will actually come back in with the drain plug removed and just pour some brand new raw oil right down through the engine. Now, don't get crazy on me with environmental business here. I'm not pouring 5 quarts through it or anything like that. I'm just pouring a little bit through. Why am I doing that? Well, have you ever drained out like a bucket of dirty water or any kind of liquid that's got grit in it? There's always a little stream that's left behind, a little nasty stream of junk. And if you go and spray a little bit more water in there, you clean that junk out. Well, now we can't be putting water down our engine, but what we can do is pour just a little bit of oil down there to wash that extra little bit of residue out that's down there. And honestly, that little trailing bit of residue is probably going to be the nastiest residue in your motor. So just the way I do it, I've never seen anybody else do it. I know a lot of people out there would go after me for doing this, but I think it's a really good way to just clean that extra bit of gunk out of your motor. There's going to be residual crap up top too that's going to wash down, and it's just going to wash out the bottom of the motor. Is it going to be a deep clean on the motor? Hell no. But it's just getting a little bit more junk out of there and giving you a little bit better chance for good motor longevity. So here is the next thing I have to tell you. I just poured some of that oil through the motor, and it came out the bottom. It went in the top of the motor clear, and it came out the bottom of the motor, and it wasn't clear. That's another reason why I stand by my technique of pouring a little bit of oil through the motor. A lot of times, and I've had these motors where they were just really particularly dirty, and it's not a this brand thing. This brand is fine. Any motor's going to do that. But that came out of the bottom of the motor nasty. And so I'm going to pour a little bit more through, and I've had these before where I just had to keep pouring a little bit of oil through them until I actually finally got clean oil out the bottom of the engine, meaning it went in the top of the engine, it went straight through by gravity and went out the bottom and got dirty. That's not a good sign. You don't want that. You want to pour the oil in the top and see it come out the bottom, either looking the same or almost the same. So I'll pour a little bit more oil through it, and we'll keep being diligent, and next time we'll definitely do a 3,000 mile oil change as opposed to a 5,000 mile. Yet again, always check the condition of your oil. There we have our second oil change ever on this car, which I think is about this car's fourth oil change lifetime. It's going to start getting more though, because that oil really was not acceptable running at 5,000 miles. For an engine that's this low mileage, I don't like to ever see anything that dirty coming out of it. And I may be kind of overhashing it, but let's look at this real quick. If I pull out my dipstick here, we've got brand new oil in there. You know, I don't know if you can see that on camera. It's already kind of honey colored. And a lot of people would say that's okay, and well, maybe they're right, but I don't think so. So the oil should be good and clear, and really when you go to check your oil on your dipstick, it should really be hard to see. It's kind of like almost a good example of it back here. You look at my brake fluid. See how my brake fluid is so clean you can barely see the height that it's at? That's kind of like what your oil should be. So, and brake fluid will start turning dark too. And same reason, it'll get dirt, grit, and grime in it. And that's what you don't want in your machine. So always be diligent about looking at your oil. Even if you're not just checking it for level, check it for how dirty it is. I didn't do that this time. Like I say, some of these times on this channel, I'm going to tell you, don't do as I do, do as I say. And we all have those moments, and this is definitely one of those. So next time we'll change this at 3,000. There is a procedure on these later model cars for resetting the oil life indicator on the dash. And that gets into kind of an interesting point. The first vehicle I ever ran into that had that had some interesting antics in the manual and such things. And I don't think they were necessarily true, but and this was a different manufacturer, by the way. I want to make this clear. This was not a Toyota. But this manufacturer basically said, oh, well, our oil life indicator will reset based on how you drive and, what the environment it is. And they were kind of trying to compensate for what I was saying earlier. I'd be very surprised if that oil life indicator had the capability of doing anything like that. I will tell you, this one is nearly as I can tell, just automatically resets at 5,000 miles. So on these later models, you do have to go in and reset the oil life indicator. I'm not going to show you that because there are other YouTubers that have already shown that. And then I'm sure Toyota has somewhere where they've shown that. And I'm just trying not to step on anybody's toes. And the other thing is, it's really pointless for me to show you that because every car on that is different. This particular vehicle I'm talking about was from the 2000s. It was a minivan, and I believe the procedure on it for setting the oil life indicator or resetting the oil life indicator was something crazy, like you turned the key on but didn't start the car. That was the key thing. You didn't start the car, and you pushed the gas pedal to the floor like 5 times, and then it would reset the thing or something like that. It was a really, really screwy procedure. These later ones are better. They've got a menu you go into and then just go in and reset it. But, you know, just know that that's really their... I really think the manufacturers put that there just to try and make sure that their car will have some kind of resale value. The oil life indicator is not going to tell you the condition of your oil. Looking at your dipstick, looking down your oil fill tube, and, you know, literally, I mean, if you have to, you're just sticking a finger down inside the motor and taking a scoop of the gunk in there. You know, you got to get dirty sometimes and check and see what's going on. So be very diligent about that. Any ride you've got, just always be, you know, peeking at your oil from time to time. Even if it doesn't leak, it can get dirty. Wait a minute. It can't get dirty. It will get dirty. Absolutely. So it's just something you've got to check into. But we've got our little Toyota here. We call her Jess. And she's ready to go again for 3,000 miles, not 5,000 miles.